Turkish citizens drown in Evros River trying to escape from Erdogan's regime. The despairing mother struggling in the dark, and freezing cold water's heartrending scream for help, "Save my child," breaks the silence of the night, and the tragic calamity in the Evros River unravels. The waters of the Aegean Sea and the Evros River, which sets the boundary between Turkey and Greece, has become a graveyard for many Syrian refugees over the last few years. Of the rivers separating the two countries were actually Turkish citizens this time. The disaster occurred as the Mardan family of 5 had sadly drowned as they were trying to cross the Aegean Sea to reach the Lesbos island in Greece. Whilst the Mardan family's misfortune still remains fresh in our memories, another tragedy has been added. A plastic boat carrying a refugee group of 8 people made up of 2 families, including a young man, became capsized in the Evros River. From the Abdürrezzak family members, Mum Ayşe, 11-year-old Abdulkadir Enes, and 2-year-old Halil Münir's lifeless bodies were found washed ashore in early morning light. In the middle of winter, in the darkness of the night, what were 8 people, 3 of which were young children, doing squeezed on a tiny plastic boat? Which crimes could these children and their parents could have committed to have to risk their lives on a dangerous journey, so desperately trying to escape from their country? The aftermath process of the 15th July controversial military coup attempt was what had brought all of them together on a boat. Abdürrezzak, the father of the children who drowned in the Evros River, was released from jail in January after 11 months of imprisonment over his alleged links to the Gulen movement. Abdürrezzak, a 39-year-old English teacher, and his wife, Ayşe Abdürrezzak, a 37-year-old English teacher, were among tens of thousands of teachers who were dismissed from their professions by a government decree under the state of emergency rule that was declared by the Justice and Development Party, AKP government, on the grounds that they were members of the Gulen movement. Abdürrezzak was taken into custody one morning, 6 months after he was dismissed from his job, and was imprisoned in Kandahar prison for 11 months. He was released in January, but his case was still ongoing on charges of being a member of a terrorist organisation. Abdürrezzak was given a prison sentence between 6.5 to 22 years. Him and his family also had their passports taken off them. Being left with no choice, they decided to leave their country. Together with their 11-year-old son Abdulkadir Enes and 2-year-old son Halil Münir, the Abdürrezzak family set out on their journey in attempts to flee Turkey through the Evros River on the 13th of February 2018, around midnight. After a long walk accompanied by human traffickers, there was also another family walking along with the Abdürrezzak family. The families reached the Evros River at 5 a.m. 30-year-old Fahrettin Doğan, his 28-year-old wife Aslı Doğan, and their 2.5-year-old son İbrahim Selim Doğan too shared the same fate. They were trying to escape from persecution and a prison sentence being issued simply due to being members of the Gulen movement. Their friend Fatih Yaşar was also joining them. A total of 8 people, including 3 children, with the presence of human traffickers, were put on a plastic boat to go across the Evros River. However, whilst trying to cross the river due to unknown reasons, the boat became capsized. On the first search that was made, mother Ayşe Abdürrezzak and her 2 sons, aged 11 and 2, were found. The search for the remaining 5 people trying to cross the river in the same boat is still ongoing. 2 years ago, with the death of baby Aylan, the tragedies of the Syrian refugees became a trending topic. And now, similarly, it is also the Turkish refugees and babies who are drowning and dying in the same way. Despite the Turkish media holding the Syrian refugee baby Aylan on the media headlines for a long time, the news of the Evros River victims was hardly reported. Nevertheless, it continues to find wide media coverage in the headlines of international news agencies. In fact, Some news reportings warn the members of the Gulen movement that due to social lynch policies being implemented in Turkey, more lives are at risk and could be lost. Since the 15th of July 2016, approximately 50,000 members of the Gulen movement are still in custody due to the ongoing state of emergency in Turkey. The judicial process is still continuing for more than 120,000 people. Thousands of people have had their passports cancelled and been subjected to ill treatment and persecution by not being given jobs and just being left to die. As a result, many people have had no choice but to risk their lives on dangerous journeys in attempts to escape and seek asylum for a safer and better life in different countries. Although the tragedies are heartbreaking, the insensitivity in the country increases and worsens the pain. The reasoning behind putting a mum on a cheap plastic boat in the middle of winter causes pangs of conscience. Activist Velisatuluk revolts to the rulers of the country by raising his voice, saying, "3-year-old babies are drowning in the waters of the river and dying. Myanmar stays on the public agenda, but Evros River can't." Omar Faruk Gargaliolu also calls out to the authorities. "Fear God and be ashamed of the humans," he declares. Whilst the question circulating social media asks, is the Evros River the murderer of the innocent, or those who declare them as terrorists in a day, stopping them from living freely in their own country and turning a blind eye to persecution and injustice?